Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Jack Jennings and I'm a guitar player and I specialise with adapting Indian classical music to the electric guitar, and I teach and I create my own music and I fuse different styles together. This is what I've done my whole life. And I'm going to make a bit of an unusual video today that I don't normally make these kind of videos. And what actually caused me to make this video is that I had a really strange experience yesterday that I thought would be interesting to share. And it basically led me to thinking a bit more deeply why I do things the way that I do in my life, and consequently with my channel and with my business and my music. And I arrived at this kind of realization through a very unexpected and actually quite uncomfortable process. So I'll tell you what happened, and let's just try and see the funny side in this as well. So just to give you a bit of a build-up, I put out an album last month and I've been having a bit of a tough time since the album came out. Actually, before that, in the lead up to it, I had some really bad news in my personal life. So I had some challenges along the way, and I've been really not very happy with the way that the channel's been going, and I don't feel like I've been too successful with the album and everything. Everything's felt very, very slow, and there's a real sense of sometimes questioning. I almost feel like this doesn't feel good anymore, or it almost feels like I don't want to quit, but this is probably the place where a lot of people would quit. This is probably where most people give up. That's how it's been feeling. And I had a few other experiences that sort of picked me up along the way. I was invited to India to play with Rupa Panesar, who was one of my teachers, and had an amazing experience being there with her. And India, I was there for less than a week, but it completely just sort of cleansed my soul really, and just made me feel so much better. So I've been feeling a lot more positive just in the last 2 weeks. And then I got a very interesting email. This is what this is really about. I got a very interesting email of this company, and I won't name the company because it's a bit meaningless, and there's probably loads of companies just like this. And they were saying that they'd come across one of my videos and they were very impressed, and they actually made me a personalized video where they showed a screenshot of them discovering my channel and saying how much they really liked it and how they could help me to make tens of thousands of pounds every month, which I can guarantee you that's a lot more than what I make at the moment. I make quite a meager income really from being a musician. So it was a very interesting email, and they were really driving it like, we've found your channel and we think that your content specifically is really, really ready to do better. And we've looked at all of the components that we would need to help you, and we think that we could definitely help your business. And it felt very personalized. There was a video of them specifically looking at my channel and saying, look, we've noticed this, we could definitely help you. So let's have a meeting. And you're thinking, well, this is probably too good to be true. I can't imagine that anyone is suddenly going to come along and start helping me to make, tens of thousands of pounds every month. But let's at least just try, let's have a meeting. These guys seem really, really professional. And they were very obviously, young guys from America, guys in their 20s. But I thought, well, these guys seem to know what they're doing, and that they had a very, very interesting track record of working with big channels and transforming that channel into a really successful channel. So I thought, okay, let's have a meeting. So I was really, really excited about this. I thought, well, actually, I've put in so much work over the past 5-6 years with this, and I've got, about 50 hours worth of guitar courses, all about Indian classical music and the guitar. I've just put out 2 albums, and it's all linked together. It's all, showing people what the guitar can do with Indian classical music and fusion and all of that together. So I thought, well, actually, why not? I've got everything here, and it just needs to be promoted or presented in the right way to just help monetize it or get more views, or however this works. So I went into the interview feeling very, interested, and I took my time to do research about the company to see what I might expect. And they were very, very good actually with everything they sent to me to kind of help me to orientate myself and learn a bit more about how their company works. But then I got into the meeting, and it was a different person who had made the personalized video to reach out to me. It was someone else, and again, it was a kind of young American guy. And I think in England we always have a bit of an experience of Americans with business, and sometimes just socially, they can feel sometimes quite contrived or quite sort of put on, like they're really presenting themselves in a certain way, which to us British people sometimes feels very unnatural, and things can feel quite staged and like they're almost kind of trying to be like someone from a movie. But it's very hard to judge people like that because every day we hear American accents on the TV. So there's almost an immediate reaction to when you interact with someone with an American accent, you feel like you're watching TV. I know it sounds silly, but you feel like you're watching television. And I'm sure they have it the other way around. When they see a British person, they think, wow, I feel like I'm watching Lord of the Rings, or I feel like I'm watching, Charles Dickens or something like that. Yeah, it probably feels like that. So I'm kind of just trying to be quite open-minded here. And I just was very honest and straightforward, and I said, look, here's my business, here's how much I make, here's how I monetize, here's the amount of students I have. I have students that pay me weekly, monthly, 3 monthly. I have students that pay me, that meet me every week. Otherwise, that just access my material. These are the kind of numbers that I'm doing on YouTube. It hasn't been going very well over the past 6 months. I've been putting out, really high quality performances, great studio, live performances with great musicians. But for some reason, the views are actually doing worse than ever. I'm in a position. I am actually quite open. But I also said that I did work with another coach about a year ago, and they had all these big ideas about pricing and all different pricing models and how to kind of be able to charge people more or put people on all these really kind of complicated plans and stuff like that was supposed to kind of entice people and make them feel like they were saving money, even though they were basically just getting you to charge people more. It was a bit disingenuous, really. But, I gave it a try, and actually it was terrible. It did way, way worse. Literally no one signed up in the month that I tried this. And I thought, well, actually, you don't understand my business. You don't understand my customers. You don't have any idea how people are interacting with me. So I'd had an experience of a business coach actually being really, really clueless and having no idea how to actually make things work, but just quite happily acting as if they can preach to you what you're supposed to do. It was very strange. So I was just very open, and I told him all of this, and I gave him pretty much all the information that someone should really need as background. But this young American guy just would not stop asking questions, more and more questions, but very sort of vague questions like, okay, so the way that you're doing it now, with your strategy or your titles or your thumbnails, do you like it? He said. Do you like it? And I was like, well, that's a bit of an odd question. Do I like it? And I said, well, I don't know. That's a very strange question. Do I like it? I mean, I'm doing it just based on my own intuition of what seems to work and what I can tell sometimes a certain title or thumbnail does better, and I kind of do my best to make them look interesting. A question, do I like it? That's a very kind of meaningless question. Where are we going with this? And he just seemed to be kind of going round and round in circles with these strange questions, and then he flipped it around and said, well, so why were you looking for help then? What made you look for help? And I said, well, that's not really how this has happened. I was approached by you. Your company approached me specifically because they thought my company could be helped based on I'm an educational channel, doing real educational videos, not just entertainment. That was their whole approach, that, we work with people who are genuinely educating people. But he wouldn't let it go. He kept kind of saying, so what were you looking for? If you were looking for someone to help, or what made you look for help, or what would you want them to help you with? And they were just very strange kind of circular questions, and it seemed to me like, well, why aren't you telling me the plan of how you're going to help me and what you guys can offer? But it was almost like he was on a script. He was really unable just to interact and actually follow on logically from what I was actually responding to him. So then he would keep flipping around and say, oh, okay, so why weren't you looking for help then? And I said, well, I already had an experience last year of someone wasting my time and charging money for it. And actually, I've been really, really busy. I've just put out an album. I've been really busy with that. But he wouldn't let it go. He kept saying, oh, so why weren't you looking for help? So why weren't you, or you should be open to help. Is there any reason why you're not open to help? Why shouldn't you be open to help? And it was like the most bizarre Alice in Wonderland kind of conversation. I said, well, I'm here. I'm in this meeting. I'm giving you my time now. I could be getting on with some other work that I really need to do right now, but I'm giving you half an hour of my time. So I'm already here to accept help, or at least be interested in a different way of doing things. But he just kept on going with this very, very strange kind of transparent sort of approach that it was almost like he was trying to lead me down a path of me sort of admitting that I was desperate for help, or that I needed them, or trying to expose, almost like as if I had like a mental block that he was going to try and help me with. It was just so bizarre. It was like he was trying to do therapy. It was so strange. Started saying things like, well, you should be open. You shouldn't be that guy who has one bad experience and then never tries again, because you need to be open to change. And if you've been doing it this way for 5 years and you're still not making that much money, you should be open to change. You should be. And I was like, well, look, you don't need to keep just saying these kind of like random kind of psychological advice, or trying to kind of be like motivational. Like, I'm here for a business meeting. Like, is there any actual genuine business proposition? Like, do you actually have anything really to say? And the guy was being so strange. The meeting actually became very tense at this point, because he was rigidly trying to go down this kind of strange psychological sort of route of like questioning my approach, or questioning my mentality. And it was almost like he was reading things from like a Rocky film. Like, there's a difference between wanting to be the guy who makes it and actually being the guy who makes it, and just all kinds of stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And you're giving me kind of general advice, but is this actually moving forward anywhere, And he said, no, that's what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not just giving you advice. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about your business. And it was just so bizarre, and every time that I said, look, this isn't actually moving forward. This isn't what I expected. There's no actual clear plan here or business proposition. He would kind of get a bit aggressive and say, oh, well, you can just drop the call right now if you want. If you don't want help, fine. You can just drop the call right now. And it was just a very, very strange experience. But one interesting point that it came down to in the meeting, this is the real point here, is that he started saying things like, well, why aren't you doing it differently? Or, what's your strategy? Or what do you think, about thumbnails or titles? Or what's your strategy? And I just kept saying to him that, my channel is based on genuine teaching. I only have time to do what I know that my students actually need me to do for them to learn. So every week I teach my students. I have one-to-one lessons, and I have people that pay every month to access my video lessons on my site. And I've put all the time in the world into making genuine teaching content that they will actually learn from. And then I give samples of that onto YouTube. And I don't have time to make videos that are just made for views, or just made because they're kind of a calculated attempt to get views. It's just genuine material that will help people to learn and play. And I also create my own music, and I document that process. And I have a lot of investment into my own creative process and the creative vision, and how I'm working with other musicians to achieve that. and producing my own albums, and I document that. I share my performances, I share a bit of my philosophy around that, and I just show my genuine journey and the things that I genuinely have learned that I know can help other people. And it became actually very clear to me, this is what my channel is about. That's all that I do. And I have tried, well, for fun, I've done sometimes things like reaction videos when I've been quite excited by some new music. A couple of years ago, Polyphia put out that track Ego Death with Steve Vai, and I thought, actually, this is fantastic music. I actually would really like to talk about this. So I did a reaction video, and it was huge. I got way more views than I ever get on my other videos. And so I thought, oh, this is great. So I did that a few times, but I got really tired of it because that's not what I'm about, and even though they got way more views, I have no real interest in doing reaction videos just for views, or doing a video where I just talk about another famous guitar player and stuff like that. That might be fun, but I personally don't have the time or the motivation to do that consistently. And there's no point in trying to make my channel something which is just a commercially viable option. I genuinely only have time and energy to sustain something which is about my real passion, which is purely playing, creating my own music, my own journey, and teaching people and showing them the things that I genuinely know will make a difference. I think if there's anything I was put on this earth to do, it is to play, and it's genuinely to teach people, because I am very serious about teaching. It's the only way that I've consistently made money since I was 16 years old. I'm 38 now. And it was just very strange the way that this guy was coming at me, in this meeting. He was saying things like, well, you've got to be prepared to kind of keep going. It's not about giving up, or it's not about, not being open to, go again and all this kind of stuff. Like he was quoting from a Rocky film or something like that. And I had to say to him, it was like, look, I've been working in music for over 20 years. I've had all kinds of setbacks. I've had all kinds of things that have been really, really difficult and made me feel like I was at a dead end. But you keep going. Like, I could tell you a thing or two. I don't know how old this guy was. He's maybe 25 or something like that. So he's a fair bit younger than me. And I've had enough life experience to know what it means to keep going. And I even told this guy, I was very, very honest. I said, look, I have very little time to do these things. I have a daughter with special needs. She needs my help. Every day my daughter requires my help. And I have to time very, very carefully how I organize my day in order to get anything done. I have to stay up very late at night if I want to produce new videos or produce music, or to do my practice. I never really have proper downtime. Even if I'm relaxing in the evening watching a bit of TV, I do my practice. I have to keep practicing. So it was just a very strange experience, but it's actually made me feel very confident in what I'm doing. And at the end of the day, it's very hard to imagine that someone is going to come along and just tell you, well, here's how to make a thumbnail, or here's what the title should be. I mean, maybe those things could change the channel. Who knows? It is a very small channel. There's a lot more that could be done. But I've always felt that I actually do quite well in terms of my sales, my engagement, and my students. Considering how small my channel is in terms of the numbers, I think I actually do very well. And it's such a niche, I'm teaching Indian classical music adapted to the guitar. I mean, that is one of the most niche things. I'm not teaching blues or, punk, or, how to play like Steve Vai, or even how to play like Jimi Hendrix. Like I could do that because I grew up playing all the Jimi Hendrix stuff. But it's okay, like someone else can do that. I know that no one else is able to do what I'm doing because no one's had the journey of actually growing up and studying Indian classical music from the age of about 18. I've been studying for 20 years, and I have a background as a guitar player that I understand the guitar and how to make it work as an Indian classical instrument. I know that I can do this, and very, very few people can do that. And I know that my students are very grateful that I'm doing this, and they're telling me that no one else is doing this for them. If it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have an option to really do this. There are other people that teach Indian classical music on the guitar, but very few of them have actually genuinely developed a teaching strategy that really, really works and that enables people, even from beginners, to play Indian classical music on the guitar. And it's because I understand the instrument, you know, and I've been teaching since such a young age, and I'm patient enough to actually teach people who are, you know, who are not particularly natural. A lot of my students struggle quite a lot, and I'm patient enough to do that, and I know how to deliver things in the right way for people. So this is what my channel is about, and it's not about trying to chase views and stuff like that. And to be honest, you know, I would never make content just to get views. I just couldn't do that. It's just against how I live my life in every way. So unless it's just down to thumbnails and, you know, titles or something superfluous like that, maybe it is. Maybe that would make all the difference, you know. But I also think that what would make the biggest difference on my channel is just being featured with other creators and just being invited as a guest on different people's channels. I mean, the ultimate thing for a musician like me would be imagine if I was interviewed by Rick Beato, or I had a chance to, you know, sit down with the guys at Anderton's TV or Sweetwater or whoever, just some of these bigger YouTube channels, you know. That would be an opportunity for people to learn more about what I do. And there's all kinds of really, you know, successful musicians out there who, you know, haven't done this whole kind of pandering to, you know, all of that kind of stuff, but they've just had their own creative journey and it's brought them to a good place, you know. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I'm sure it probably will at some point, but at the end of the day, it's about just being true to yourself and doing something that is genuinely true to what you want to achieve. And to be honest, if I think of someone like a Rick Beato, they would probably be more interested in me because of the uniqueness of what I'm doing. And I'm not afraid to say it's unique, because if you check out my original material or the teaching material as well, it is very unusual, and that's partly why my business is so difficult, because it's so unusual. You know, hardly anyone's even thought of the idea of seriously doing Indian classical music on the guitar, or combining it with, you know, Jimi Hendrix influences. And I've done a whole new album talking about nature, blending nature with music, you know. But someone like Rick Beato, he would be interested in what I do specifically because it's different and because it's unique and because I've gone into my own rabbit hole and gone all the way down there. You know, I would never get invited to be on someone's channel just because I make videos about Eddie Van Halen, or I make a video about Jimi Hendrix, and then the next week I do Steve Vai, and then the next week after that I do Eric Clapton. You know, if I just turned my channel into that, just a kind of generic, like, let's just talk about all the most famous guitar players because I'll get the most clicks, it would never actually take me where I genuinely want to go, you know, because I'm much too deeply involved with my own creative process and the music that I make. I believe in it too much to ever really go about my life in a way that's not the main thing. Even if I'm struggling, and actually I'm not really struggling, I'm kind of comfortable. The thing is, I'm comfortable enough not to feel like I have to chase money, you know. Whatever my life has become, it's definitely something where I seem to be permitted in one way or another by God or by the government or whoever, however that, you know, the economy works. I seem to be given permission to just do what I genuinely love doing, and that seems to actually be working okay for me. And it means that I do have limited means, and I, you know, and even if I have to kind of finance my own album, it's like it can be a bit of a sting, and it's all of those kind of things. There are limitations. But at the end of the day, I know that I'm the kind of person who would value more doing what I genuinely want to do than just doing something trying to chase success or chase clicks. Because at the end of the day, that's a bit of a lottery anyway. It's quite unlikely that that's actually going to work. You could very easily just run around in circles and it doesn't necessarily go anywhere. Or, I mean, I probably could just do loads of reaction videos and I know that my channel would get more views. And maybe eventually that would filter across then into me being able to sell more courses or people listening to my music. Maybe. But I personally, I'd just get sick of doing it. I know that I'd get sick of just doing reaction videos because every day I'd be thinking, well, this isn't what I dreamed of doing, you know? And if I'm being given an opportunity in life to, you know, survive and to get by and to support my family and look after my daughter and be, you know, able to attend to the people in my life with respect and with love and with honor, and I'm able to actually do what I genuinely really want to do, then, you know, that's not bad. That's not a bad situation to be in at all. So at the end of the day, I think it was a really good thing for me to have this meeting. But I don't think the guy had any idea how to actually really work with real people. It was almost like you were talking to like a chat bot who had been programmed to sort of subtly manipulate the customer to make them feel like they were inadequate and that they needed help. Or it was very, very strange, you know, the way to sort of try to flip the whole tables. It was a very, very strange way of doing a meeting. Not usually how people do business. There usually needs to be a clear plan, a clear incentive, and no kind of weird mind games. Like, or at least if there are mind games, you need to hide them a little bit better than that, my friend. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys. This was a bit of a strange ramble, but I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to check out other videos on my channel, I've got original music that I'm very passionate about, and I have teaching content for, you know, regular lead guitar in all styles or just Indian classical music as a lead guitar style. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.